So let's just do a short video here on the Australian protests. So the Australian protests are what I would describe as white BLM. And the reason why I call it white BLM is because I think it's going to be about as effective and earth-shattering and a threat to the establishment as BLM was. And what I mean by that is the issue that was chosen by BLM was quite myopic. It was 9 unarmed black men being killed by the police. Now, in the grand scheme of things, is that as threatening to black people as abortion, as immigration, as obesity, heart disease, lactose intolerance? Probably not, right? Probably more black people are killed by milk every year than are killed by the police, but BLM didn't care about that because BLM is corporate controlled and corporate promoted. We saw all the major corporations still today promote BLM, and that is because it is beneficial for them, not for black people. It is a very cynically promoted movement. It's a cynically promoted identity group, tribal group that roamed the streets and destroyed property in the name of Bank of America, Google, Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon to destroy small businesses, to drive them out of urban zones so that the big boys could take over. What's going on with these Australian protests? To me, it's just the next phase in a cycle between when you saw Donald Trump. Well, actually, I would say it really began with Obama. Obama was noted at the time because he was really driving these big crowds. And I'm sure earlier guys like Reagan did it. But Obama was noted for being very charismatic and he could really fire up a rally. Well, Donald Trump was the right-wing answer to that. And I remember the right wing at the time said, no one on the left can do this. They don't have any energy. You know, Hillary couldn't do this. Biden couldn't do this. It's only Trump. Of course, Bernie did it to an extent. But with BLM, that was just totally proven to be completely wrong, where you had riots in all these cities. You had a lot of energy going on. And this is kind of like the right-wing answer to BLM. And I don't say that. I mean, a lot of people would say that and be like, awesome, yeah, BLM was so powerful and BLM was so scary. And yeah, we want to have the right-wing answer to BLM. And I say, that's pathetic, right? Because BLM was myopic, and so is what's going on in Australia, where they're arguing about mandates to put things in your body. Well, hate to say it, folks, but if you shop at the grocery store, you're eating microplastics. If you eat fish, you're eating mercury. If you're drinking water, you're drinking antidepressants. You are already being injected with a whole host of chemicals and noxious substances that are killing you, not necessarily physically. Maybe you'll live as long as previous people did, but it is killing you emotionally, psychologically, maybe even spiritually. It's messing with your endocrine system, your hormones, and so on. I don't see mass protests going on about this because it's not a big hot topic. It is not the distraction of the day. That is how I saw Trump. That is how I saw BLM, and that is how I see these current protests. So, not happy to see it, not happy to see people possibly throwing away their lives, literally people dying in the streets. I don't know what the death toll is right now. I don't know if it'll rise. I don't know if it'll dissipate. But I've seen some pretty graphic images, and I hate to see that, but this is the result of social media. This is the result of, I've used the metaphor before, of the person in the water and the person in the boat. Let's check to make sure I wasn't recording last time. Okay, so the person in the water and the person in the boat means that you've got one guy in the water, one guy in the boat. The guy in the boat says to the guy in the water, hey, there's a new strain of shark, and this strain of shark has a 0.5% chance of biting you. And if this shark bites you, and you happen to have a pre-existing condition like hemophilia where your blood doesn't clot, you could actually die from this shark bite. The guy says, okay, well, I know plenty of people have been bitten by like little sand sharks or whatever. Yeah, it's like a paper cut and you get over it, okay? I'm not gonna get in that boat though, because that boat is scary. That is a mechanically modified boat. I'm not gonna get in it. You know why? Because I've heard of people who have been in boats and that big metal mast, that looks like a lightning rod. You could get struck by lightning. Here's a list of 50 people every year who get struck by lightning in boats, I'm not getting in that boat. So you've got these people arguing, well, I don't think you should be bit by that shark, because if you get bitten by that shark, you know, he's going to smell blood and he's coming for all of us. And then a new strain of shark will be born and we're all going to die in a shark apocalypse. And the guy, well, I'm not going to get in that boat because that boat is a New World Order boat and everyone's going to get struck by lightning if they go in that boat, and I'm not doing it. That's a gulag boat. That's a prison boat. I believe in human rights. I believe in freedom. And look, I'm not anti-boat. I think people can go in boats. In fact, we've been boating our children for 60 years, the polio boat, all the other boats. And I never protested then, but now, you know, I'm going to protest, right? So what I'm saying is you've got two myopic people who hate each other over the fact that one of them is endangering the other and the other's endangering the one, over things that are equivalent to shark bites and lightning strikes. These are nowhere as near as dangerous as the mercury in our fish, the antidepressants in our water, the vegetable oils in our food, the microplastics in the air, and in the soil. These are the threats that are facing our health. And nobody cares because they're not promoted by social media. They're more important, they're affecting us more, but nobody cares because they're not on social media. What is the point of all this? The point of all of this is saying we have to emotionally divest from this superficial corporate left, corporate right paradigm, where it's this constant hatred, where you're seeing people going around coughing on other people, you're seeing people angry, you're seeing people making TikTok raps, 30 to 40-year-old white women without souls making raps about how, you know, if you don't follow the CDC, you belong 6 feet under. And it's like, I understand the hate that's generated from that, right? I understand why people hate each other. But that doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's productive. And we have to ask ourselves, what do we want? Because I understand the history of revolutions. I understand that civil wars require competing elites, that the war of the North against the South in America was not about the masses of people against the elites. That was between two groups of elites who basically didn't care enough about the average person enough so that they were willing to draft the average person and to sacrifice the average person for their own power struggle. I mean, the Irish who were recruited in that war, the Scots-Irish, there were so many people who did not want to fight in that war. They were not interested in that war. And yet they were drafted and they were forced into it, and they were forced to die by the thousands. And it was a disgusting war. It was, in many ways, a pointless war, a war that we wish could have been avoided. But it was not the masses against the elite. It was two groups of elites. And in this situation, we do not have competing elites. We have essentially one elite, and that elite cynically drives the average person against one another. Every 4 years, you know, the Democrats say the Republicans are sexist, racist, and they're raping women. And then the right wing turns around and says they're killing and eating babies and they're destroying our country. And if that goes back and forth every 4 years for the last 20 years, I mean, I really think it started with George W. Bush. You could say it started earlier. This level of contention in American politics. You could say it goes back to, I don't know. I know a lot of people hated Ronald Reagan. I know a lot of people hated Nixon. But I think the number of people who are so politically active that they cannot describe themselves as a moderate, that they literally hate the other side, or they hate both sides. It used to be that if you were a moderate, you like both sides. You're like, well, I'm a moderate. I like JFK, but I also like Nixon. Now being a moderate means I hate Trump, and I hate Hillary, and I hate Biden, and I hate DeSantis, I hate the left, and I hate the right. That's a really unfortunate situation, but it's a very logical consequence of the economic incentives of democracy, where if you want to get elected, you have to drum up hatred for the other side. That's been proven time and time again. The best motivating factor to get people out to vote is the idea that the other side, the alternative, is atrocious. If you're like, hey, there's two really good choices, vote for me. That doesn't sell votes. It's a mercantile practice, and they're peddling hate. It's really destructive. We have to stop. We have to totally divest from this, and we have to say we're not going to participate in this. Now, I still advocate for voting on the sense of, if we're going, I advocate for voting in the sense I advocate for brushing your teeth. I advocate for paying your taxes. You know, I think that it's just one of those things that you do. It's a discipline that you do where you say, okay, this isn't going to save the world, this isn't going to change the world. But the people, I hate the attitude of the people who say, I'm a principled non-voter, you know? It's like that attitude of, you know, I'm a principled objector to the system. That to me is more lame, you know, than just going and taking the 30 minutes to go vote. So yeah, I have a problem with that attitude. I think that's a very self-serving, moralistic attitude that's not really based on pragmatics, because there's a lot of things, there's a lot of chores in life. There's a lot of things you just have to do that don't have any immediate return. They're not very sexy, you know, but you just have to go out and do them, okay? And I think voting is basically one of those things. To me, it's practice where, you know, if you have a group of people who are used to going and voting every so often, every 2 years, every 4 years, then you've got a group of people who essentially are willing to defer the immediate satisfaction of, I don't know why I'm getting into a principled defense of voting here, but it's just one of those behaviors of, like, you know, people who are involved with the local school board. I think that type of mentality needs to be developed of, you have to be conscientious, you have to be willing to be involved with the doldrums and the bureaucracy of political life. I mean, that's how our legal system works. That's how our economic system works. You want to win a court case, there's a lot of BS you have to go through. You want to start a business, you have to fill out a lot of forms, right? And so I think voting, telling people, sorry, voting is lame and it doesn't work, but you still have to do it, it's just training for the type of discipline that's needed to successfully navigate our society and to pursue a successful minoritarian strategy. So that is my answer to the mass protests of the Australian BLM, the mandate BLM. You basically have to say, I'm willing to emotionally divest from this, and I'm going to focus on things that matter to me, things that are in my power and control. I'm going to focus on my health. I'm going to focus on my relationships. I'm going to focus on my church. I'm going to focus on my community. And I'm going to build up my relationships and the whole network from top to bottom of who I am and what my identity is in something that's real. Not in something that elites created 100 years ago to control you, whether that's the convoluted American identity or the convoluted white identity. In both cases, these were imperial ideologies. Now, today, the people saying, oh, we're America first. Well, it's like, you say you love America, but you hate our degenerate culture. You say you love America, but you hate the government. Nice.
Subscribe. Very good.
Nice. Beautiful.
Very good.
Beautiful. You're going to love it. If you love autism, you're going to love my channel. Okay, great.
All right.